Hi, my name is Muhammad Hakimi bin Mat Said. So, today I want to talk a topic that we need to aware about, which is verbal abuse can be much more destructive than physical. What is verbal abuse? Why it is dangerous than physical abuse? Here, let me tell you. Verbal abuse involves some sort of verbal interaction that cause a person emotional harm, often prompting them to question who they are. It is a way for a person to control and maintain power over another person. In fact, it is not uncommon for a victim to verbal abuse to feel stupid and worthless. After all, they are being defined by a verbally abusive person. When it comes to verbal abuse, victims often question whether or not what they are experiencing is truly abusive. They also wonder whether or not it is a big deal. When someone is being verbally abused, the person attacking them may use overt forms of abuse like engaging in name-calling and making threats, but also more insidious methods like gaslighting or constantly correcting, interrupting, putting down, and demeaning them. Even prolonged silent treatment is a form of verbal abuse. When this happens, the person is attempting to control and punish the victim by refusing to talk to the other person. Verbal abuse can take a number of different forms, including blaming, criticism, gaslighting, judging, name-calling, and making threats. Verbal abuse can impact every element of life, including academic performance, relationships, and success at work later in life. Just like any other form of abuse or bullying, verbal abuse has both short and long-term consequences, including the following mental health problems such as anxiety, change in mood, chronic disease, decreased self-esteem, depression, feeling of shame, guilt, and hopelessness, PTSD, and substance use. When verbal abuse is particularly severe, it can impact whether or not people can see themselves as being successful in any area of life. Those who experience verbal abuse as children may experience feeling of worthlessness, difficulty trusting others, and problems regulating their emotions as adults. A number of studies have shown that children who are verbally abused either at home or by their peers at school are at a greater risk for this depression and anxiety as adults. Here are some signs that a family member, friend, peer, or dating partner is verbally abusive. 1. They call you names. Anytime someone engages in name calling, it is a form of verbally abuse. Even if the names are said in neutral voice, this is not an acceptable treatment of another person. They have used words to shame you. Examples include critical, sarcastic, or mocking words that are meant to put you down. This may be comments about the way you dress, talk, your intelligence. Basically, shaming is any comment that makes you feel inferior or ashamed of who you are. Number 2, they make jokes at your expense. Typically, verbally abusive people will make you the butt of their jokes. This can be done in private or in person, but If you don't find it funny, then it is not harmless fun. What's more, verbally abusive people usually select jokes that attack an area where you feel vulnerable or weak. Number 3, they humiliate you in public. When you are insulted in public by a peer, a friend, a family member, or a dating partner, this can be particularly painful for you. Number 4, they yell, they scream, they swear at you. Anytime someone yell or curse at you, it is a display of power and the goal of control and intimidate you into submission. As a result, it is abusive and should not be tolerated or excused. Sign number 5 is they make threats. No threat should ever be taken lightly. When people make threats, they are trying to control and manipulate you. Remember, there is no better way to control someone than make them fearful in some way. So, what to do about verbal abuse? The first step in dealing with verbal abuse is to recognize the abuse. If you are able to identify any type of verbal abuse, it's important to acknowledge that first and foremost. By being honest about what you are experiencing, you can begin to take steps to gain back control. While you need to consider your individual situation and circumstances, these tips can help if you find yourself in a verbally abusive situation. Try to set boundaries. Firmly tell the verbally abusive person that they may no longer criticize, judge or shame you, name call or threaten you, and so on. Then tell them what will happen if they continue this abusive behavior. For instance, tell them that if they scream or swear at you, the conversation will be over and you will leave the room. The key is to follow through. Don't set boundaries you have no intention of keeping. Limit the exposure. If possible, take time away from the verbally abusive person and spend time with people who love and support you. Limiting exposure with the person can give you space and evaluate your relationship. Surrounding yourself with a network of friends and family will help you to feel less lonely and isolated and remind you of what a healthy relationship should look like. Then try to seek for help. Healing from a verbally abusive relationship may not be something you can do on your own. Reach out to trusted loved one for support and consider talking to a therapist that can help you process your emotion and develop healthy coping skills for dealing with short and long-term consequences of verbal abuse. Remember, verbal abuse doesn't have to leave a lasting impact. With intervention, victims can overcome and cope with the bullying they have experienced. That's all from me. Thank you.